The Ghost Kingdom Syndrome. Why adoptees constantly fantasize about alternative reality versions. What if the life you're living right now feels like a shadow compared to a world that only exists in your mind? For adoptees, the Ghost Kingdom isn't just a fantasy. It's a psychological survival mechanism. We're diving deep into the science behind these alternative realities and how to reclaim your present. The invisible parallel universe. There's a phenomenon happening inside the minds of millions of adoptees worldwide. And most people have no idea it exists. It's called the Ghost Kingdom Syndrome. And it's the constant, intrusive creation of alternative reality versions of their lives. Not the life they're living. The life they could have lived. Imagine waking up every single day and your brain automatically generates vivid scenarios of a completely different existence. A different family, a different name, a different culture, different traditions, different holidays, different everything. For adoptees, this isn't occasional daydreaming. This is a relentless mental projection that plays on repeat, sometimes for decades. The Ghost Kingdom is that parallel universe where the adoption never happened, where biological parents kept them, where their original identity remained intact. And here's what makes it so psychologically powerful. It feels more real than reality itself. The neuroscience of fractured identity. Let's talk about what's actually happening in the brain. When a child is separated from their biological family, especially during critical developmental windows, something profound occurs in their neural architecture. The brain creates what neuroscientists call disrupted attachment schemas. Think of it as your brain's blueprint for understanding who you are and where you belong getting torn in half. The prefrontal cortex, which handles identity formation and self-concept, doesn't get the continuous narrative it needs. Instead, there's a gap, a black hole in the story of self. And the human brain absolutely hates gaps. It will fill them with something, anything, to create coherence. Enter the Ghost Kingdom. This isn't simple imagination. Brain imaging studies on adoptees show heightened activity in the default mode network, the neural system responsible for self-referential thinking and mental time travel. Adoptees literally spend more time mentally living in alternative timelines than non-adoptees. Their brains are working overtime, constantly constructing and reconstructing what could have been. The psychological purpose behind the fantasy. Here's where it gets fascinating. The Ghost Kingdom isn't a dysfunction, it's an adaptation. It's a survival mechanism that serves three critical psychological purposes. First, it provides control. When your origin story was written by other people's decisions, creating alternative realities gives you agency, even if only in your mind. You become the author of possibilities. Second, it manages grief. Adoption involves loss, even in the best circumstances. Loss of biological connection, cultural heritage, genetic mirroring, and original identity. The Ghost Kingdom allows adoptees to maintain a relationship with what was lost without fully confronting the pain of that loss. Third, it preserves hope. As long as the Ghost Kingdom exists, there's a chance, however small, that something could change, that a reunion could happen, that missing pieces could be found. The fantasy keeps the door open to resolution. But here's the problem. While the Ghost Kingdom serves these protective functions, it also creates a psychological prison. Living between two worlds means never fully inhabiting either one. The high cost of living in two realities. Adoptees with Ghost Kingdom syndrome report a consistent set of symptoms that mental health professionals are only beginning to recognize. There's chronic dissociation, a feeling of watching your own life from the outside. There's decision paralysis, because how do you commit to a future when you're still mentally living in an alternative past? There's relationship difficulty because emotional intimacy requires presence, and presence is impossible when half your consciousness is in another dimension. Many describe feeling like imposters in their own lives. They go through the motions, celebrate birthdays, attend family gatherings, pursue careers. But there's always this underlying sense that they're acting in someone else's story. The real story, the authentic story, is happening somewhere else, in the ghost kingdom. This creates what psychologists call ambiguous loss, grief without closure. It's mourning something that simultaneously exists and doesn't exist. A family you've never met but somehow know intimately. A culture you've never experienced but deeply miss. A version of yourself that never got to exist. The cultural amplification effect. For transracial and international adoptees, the ghost kingdom becomes even more complex. Now, you're not just imagining a different family. You're imagining an entirely different racial, ethnic, and cultural identity. You're navigating two worlds externally while managing multiple internal worlds simultaneously. Korean adoptees raised in white American families describe ghost kingdoms filled with Korean language, Korean food, Korean traditions they've never actually experienced, but feel genetically coded to understand. Black adoptees in white families construct alternative realities where they're surrounded by people who look like them, where they don't have to explain their hair, their skin, their existence. The ghost kingdom becomes a refuge from the racial isolation and cultural disconnection of their actual lives. But it also intensifies the feeling of not belonging anywhere. Too different from their adoptive families to fully belong there. Too disconnected from their birth culture to claim authentic membership there. Citizens of nowhere, residents of the ghost kingdom. Breaking free without letting go. So how do adoptees reclaim their present without destroying the ghost kingdom entirely? Because here's the truth. You can't just shut it down. Trying to eliminate these alternative realities through sheer willpower or positive thinking doesn't work. The ghost kingdom exists for a reason. The key is integration, not elimination. It's learning to acknowledge the ghost kingdom as a valid part of your psychological landscape, while simultaneously grounding yourself in present reality. It's holding both truths. The life you could have had matters, and the life you're actually living matters too. This starts with radical self-compassion. Understanding that the ghost kingdom isn't weakness or dysfunction. It's evidence of resilience. Your brain found a way to protect you from overwhelming loss by creating a space where that loss could be processed safely. Therapy, particularly approaches that address complex trauma and identity formation, can help adoptees navigate the relationship between their actual lives and their ghost kingdoms. Connecting with other adoptees who understand this experience reduces the isolation and validates the reality of living between worlds. Some adoptees find that actively engaging with their ghost kingdom rather than fighting it reduces its power. Writing out the alternative scenarios, creating art about them, acknowledging what was lost and what could have been without letting it consume the present. Reclaiming the present. The ghost kingdom will probably never completely disappear, and maybe it shouldn't. Those alternative realities are part of the adoptee experience, part of the story. But they don't have to be the whole story. Reclaiming the present means recognizing that while the ghost kingdom represents loss and possibility, the present holds something the fantasy never can. Actual lived experience. Real relationships. genuine accomplishments, authentic growth. It means understanding that you can honor what could have been while also fully inhabiting what is. That imagining alternative versions of your life doesn't make your current life less valid. That carrying grief doesn't prevent you from simultaneously carrying joy. The Ghost Kingdom Syndrome reveals something profound about the human need for coherent identity, and the lengths our minds will go to create meaning from fractured narratives. For adoptees, learning to exist peacefully between what was, what could have been, and what actually is becomes the ultimate act of psychological integration. The question isn't whether the ghost kingdom exists. It does, and it always will. The question is whether you'll remain trapped there or learn to visit it while building a life in the present that's worthy of being called home. Thank you for watching.